Good morning, Center for Spiritual Living and friends everywhere. It's 10 a.m. Tuesday morning. That's my brother Jeffon.
Good
Namaste,
morning.
my brother.
Namaste. How's it going?
Good to see you. Yeah, really good.
Dude.
Really good. Good to be with you on this Tuesday. Welcome everybody, wherever you are. What do we say? It's today, right, brother? I mean, it's another day. What do we make it? What are you making out of today?
It's a really great day, and I know last week Dawn said something with regards to just a simple prayer, affirmative prayer. You know, we're here, we're breathing, we're living, we're existing. There's the essence of life connecting all of us. We're continuing down this amazing pathway that we call life, and what a sacred and beautiful opportunity it is to be here talking with you, and also for everybody chiming in. So it's a blessing.
Amen. And I love that. You know, a prayer can look like so many different things. You know, we talk about affirmative prayer and a 5-step, spiritual mind treatment and things like that. But a prayer can simply be close your eyes and intend something right now.
Yeah.
Intend, like I know that life, that my life is life and that I'm one with life. And today I intend, like right now, like this is going to be an extraordinary show that will benefit people. I'm grateful.
And so it is.
So it is, right? Yeah, you look good, brother. Are you growing out a little bit?
Well, if somebody knows a good, person in a salon who can cut my hair, please let me know. But it's my good friend in Salt Lake who's been cutting my hair for quite some time, and I haven't seen him due to obviously what's going on. And therefore, the curls just keep curling,
Curls keep curling. I love it.
Yep.
I forgot to get my water bottle. Will you start us off in our conversation? I can hear you, but I'm going to go get my water jug and I'll be right back.
Of course.
Yeah, do it. Here we go.
So, as Rev Charles is grabbing something very quickly, to all of you who are tuning in, I just want to say how big of a blessing it's been for me to be able to be a part of CSL Palm Desert and share into Dr. Joe and everybody whose paths I've had the opportunity to cross throughout this voyage of life. And I'm extremely grateful for those of you who have been tuning in, who are continuing this conversation as we cover how to be an anti-racist. This incredible book, which if you've yet to begin, you can jump in. We are only 2 chapters into the book. They're pretty heavy chapters to digest. And I believe it was Catherine who shared an email with regards to being able to pinpoint the particular passages or things that we're going to discuss. I tried to put some ideas in a PowerPoint. When we come to certain pages that I'm more than happy to share so people can kind of tune in or at least turn to that page as we go through the conversation.
Love it. So it's dueling consciousness. I just want to start with the 3 definitions at the top of the chapter, my brother. And of course, again, I'm not sure if you said this, Jeffon, I was getting my water. We want to make sure that please participate with us. Send comments, questions, everything. We want to interact, right? We want to interact with everybody. I want to start at the top of the chapter, Jeffon. There's 3 different definitions that Ibram Kendi talks about. Assimilationist, one who is expressing the racist idea that a racial group is culturally or behaviorally inferior and is supporting cultural or behavioral enrichment programs to develop that racial group, which is just, we could do a whole hour just on that.
Yeah.
So then there's segregationist, one who is expressing the racist idea that a permanently inferior racial group can never be developed and is supporting policy that segregates away that racial group. And then an anti-racist, which is what he's ultimately promoting, or not promoting, but sharing with us, one who is expressing the idea that racial groups are equals and none needs developing, and is supporting policy that reduces racial inequity.
Yep.
What do you, just those three, let's talk about that for a few minutes. What do you make of that, my brother?
Assimilation is the one that I had to kind of wrap my mind around. I can understand the reasoning for anti-racist, particularly after that first chapter that we discussed last week.
Yep.
I can see in history segregation and the refusal to acknowledge, other people of color, particularly in to schools and those type of things. Assimilation was the one that I really had to begin to think deeply on. And I reflected on my own life in ways in which I may have looked out at people who look like me, or and say, like, pull yourself up.
Right.
And this idea of being inferior, then that means that you're trying to be somebody other than that which you are. um it's hard. I'm still trying to capture that whole essence of what that means for me particularly.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I've been assimilated. I feel as if that's something that I've really been trying to do at an unconscious level throughout my experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which blocks me from being my authentic self.
It blocks you. That's what it does. And it blocks me from being my authentic self.
Right.
I just want to read that one more time because it's pretty deep. Assimilationist, one who is I'm saying that word right? Assimilationist. Yep. One who is expressing the racist idea that a racial group is culturally or behaviorally inferior, and is supporting cultural or behavioral enrichment programs to develop that racial group. And I think as we go through the chapter, we'll see that he talks about, I think it seems like mostly Black folks being assimilationists.
Yeah.
That they assimilate rather than being
self-reliant.
And I say they, I don't mean anything by it. If you want to send me an email, that's fine. But we're assimilating instead of being powerful, instead of being ourselves, instead of being authentic. You said it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's and that dueling consciousness is interesting because it's like, yeah, it really circles around some really powerful points, and also brings into the forefront assimilationist, also brings into the forefront this savior complex at times. I know when I found myself traveling to different countries and unique cultures, it was almost as if like I had to help them in a way to get to where I'm, it's this really weird game that we play, that maybe we don't even know we're playing.
Likely we don't. But what we do is dumb ourselves down though, right? I'd call it dumbing. Well, is it dumbing down, or is it just, it's playing to the lowest common denominator? But there's a system that perpetuates that.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that too. He talks a lot about policy in chapter 2, and I love that.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to say dumbing down. I don't know why I'm editing myself so much today. It's like,
you can't say sorry anymore for the rest of this this call.
Okay, good.
We're having a conversation, and if we say things that maybe don't hit the exact mark of the essence that we're trying to articulate, it's all good.
What's someone saying? Someone's saying, see, this is what's happening. You are see,
this is what's happening.
What's happening?
Saying sorry, being upset that something doesn't come off a certain way, not being willing to share your authentic self because I may scare somebody or put somebody off. And really, it's like we're having a conversation. We know each other's hearts. Yeah. I believe that everybody tuning in knows our hearts.
Hey, so that's actually an example of white fragility, isn't it? My white fragility. Would you agree?
Could be. Could be. But I don't know. I just think we can have a compassionate conversation, And if somebody says something that crosses the mark, we can have the humility and compassion as a listener to understand that that does not capture their whole character, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. Talkative Chatter says, can we come up with examples of assimilationist groups or policies in current news? How do we assimilate? Well, somehow we all assimilate. You know, it's like a chameleon. It's the idea of a chameleon. You don't want to, you know, there's a lot of talk, Jeffon, about disruptors, being a disruptor. And I know you have some PowerPoints you want to get to, and I want to get to those as well.
No problem.
But if you're an assimilator, you can't be a disruptor, right?
So yeah, assimilation is you're trying to fit into something that you believe is more superior than what you currently are, from my perspective. Assimilation is, okay, if I want to get high up in this organization and I see that the people who are hiring or promoting people are predominantly white men, then I have to become like that white man to be able to assume certain roles and positions, because inherently I believe that my authentic Black self, for me, is inferior to what those individuals say can be promotable.
So, and that speaks to, but how possible is that? We're going to talk about policy and things like that. I just want to talk about, is it possible as a Black man for you to actually ascend? And I know it is, but let's just talk about it. For you to make your way through the white man's world. You know, how do we, you know, that seems to me to be the thing. It's still, and I say white man's world, God, I'm getting myself into trouble today, I think, a little bit. I actually really don't care. But well, you know what, I actually see it through, I talked to my friend Stephen Robinson a little bit this morning, and as white people, we have no idea what it's like to walk through the world as a Black person, period. We don't, and it's different, and it's not the same playing ground that we play on.
Yeah. Somebody said, as a lesbian, I've experienced assimilation with not wanting to keep explaining being other to heterosexual persons.
Yep.
And that's one that I personally have, you know, I can't comprehend in my experience. I can see it from that perspective, but I have not experienced that. And that makes sense. It's like we live it seems as if America is set up on a heterosexual platform. And for individuals who are of different sexual orientations, I could see how assimilation is a continuous thing. Just as he says it in the last few pages of this chapter, the American body or American it's built on a foundation of being white. You don't say, well, you do say, but for the most part, unconsciously, we see being successful in America predominantly, and I'm thinking for myself, is a successful white man.
Yep. Yeah. A successful white man, even.
Yeah.
Because women, I mean, we could have a whole different discussion about women.
It's important to,
which is an important discussion to have too. Let's see. There was another. It is also. Is it also true that someone not a white person, they do not know what it's like to be white? Well, yeah, of course they don't.
Yeah.
We can't know what it's like to be each other, except through conversation, storytelling, compassion, being with each other, talking. That's the only way we can know what it's. I mean, we can never really know what it's like to be in somebody else's shoes, but we can talk, right, Jeffon? We can share. We can, more than that, more than talking, we can listen to each other and then somehow bring it into our heart and hear each other's stories and then make it part of ourselves. We can do that.
Yeah, and I think it really builds a cultural competence cultural intelligence,
Yes.
cultural sensitivity, cross-cultural skills, by way of those authentic interactions that you have with people who are different than you, while you can't necessarily walk in their shoes. You can have empathy and compassion towards that experience.
Yes. All right. Do you want to share you have some stuff dialed in for today? Do you want to share it with us right now?
Yeah. Oh,
Go.
I'm ready here. Okay, so first and foremost, I'm just gonna pull it up like this if everybody can see. I have a handful, but on page 25,
Yep.
you can see that he has a conversation about the war on drugs.
Holy smokes, brother. You really dialed this in today.
Well, because there's a lot of points, and I want to be respectful of people. I want them to be able to perhaps look at some of these ideas.
I love it.
Um,
Love it.
but this is
I
one
love
that I kind of want to start off with, and then I'll stop sharing my screen. We can have a
it. No,
conversation.
no, 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 no. Go. Just share. Page 25. Here we go.
Page 25. So he's talking about the war on drugs and racist policies, and the way in which that has impacted various racial groups. And this is a quote from an individual in Nixon's domestic policy. He's Nixon's domestic policy
Yep.
chief. We
Yep.
could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. And then he said, did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did.
Hmm.
And that really made me stop and think about this whole concept of there has been a deep thread that flows through America that has disenfranchised or just simply put people to the side and looked at as if they were lesser than, which this is not in a sequential order. But there is also a quote here by Thomas Jefferson. You know, he said all men are created equal, but he
Right.
never said all racial groups are created
Right.
equal.
Yeah.
This is on
Yeah.
page 32. And
Yep.
he said it would be hazardous to affirm that equally cultivated for a few generations, the Negro would not become equal. And so this is going back to show that though there was even a declaration that said all men are created equal, they did not see all men equal. And we know by way of racism or by slavery, by way of deporting and just killing people, that that has been something that has been ingrained in the American psyche, so to say.
So when the consciousness, when they thought about all men are created equal, and it has nothing to do with women, by the way, but all men are created equal, they were thinking, is the supposition that all white men were created equal.
Yeah, and not even women.
And not even women, right?
Yeah. No, because yeah, of course, women couldn't vote, and you know, all of these type of things. This chapter, as you said prior to us jumping on, I mean, we could just park on this for.
I had to read it a few times. There's a lot going on.
So I got a question for you then. Since it's talking about dual consciousness, how does this circle into the philosophy of science of mind and new thought? Because we're talking about multiple dual sides, but we know that there's a whole. So I'm very interested to hear your perspective on that.
Well, I mean, that's the practice, though, is to actually consider that there's only one thing happening, and to actually cut through everything. So it's all men are created equal, women. I mean, what would it be if women created that? You know, it's all women are created equal. How would it be for a man to actually understand that? So in principle, what do we know in principle? There's only one thing happening. That is life. Principle says there's one thing happening. And what we have to do through our own practice is actually practice that to understand I am you. To actually, you know, people to actually see in principle, to see through, you know, when people say I don't see color, from a principle standpoint, I get that. We see it, but we also celebrate each other. We celebrate each other. Principle says that you have as much opportunity as I do to achieve what I want. Principle says that my affirmative prayer is as powerful as your affirmative prayer.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care who I'm talking to. I don't care what the color of your skin is. That is principle. And so we are called to practice that. And I think we're off principle if for some reason we say that I can't have as much as a black man. I can't have as much as an Indian man or a Russian or a North Korean or whatever it is. I get to experience the life that I want to experience as a person that lives in the universe because I'm alive, because I'm here, because I get to. And the nightmare is that we think because of the color of our skin, we don't get to. Mm-hmm. And I'm called to wait. I'm called to help with that, as much or little as I can. That's what I have to say about that. Principle says that every person, every life form gets to have the life that they feel they deserve. And we have to up-level our deserving from a human standpoint. That's what I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think, brother? What do you think?
Well, I follow you on the inherent worth and greatness and value of each person, being that we are all, sparks of the infinite, so to say. There is no disconnection, particularly in that second stage of the affirmative prayer. We're one with it, realizing that we're led, directed, guided each moment of each day, whether we're aware of it or not. And I believe at a deep spiritual level, that is absolutely true. There is no barrier separation. However,
principle, no, and that's principle.
That's principle.
That's principle. And go ahead. Yep.
And when I say, however, this does not negate everything that I just said.
I get it.
In this physical world that we are moving, walking, and having our being in, experiencing, creating, there are various things that different people bump up against that is different by way of how we look. And but that does not dismiss the power that is contained within each person. As blatantly racist, discriminatory, prejudice, hateful, hurtful, harmful the outside world may be, there is a place that I firmly believe all can tap into that will transcend that. And we've seen that by way of, great Native American chiefs and leaders. We've seen that in terms of Mandela and other people in recent history who have really stood up in the face of oppression and were able to tap into a part of themselves that not only catapulted them forward, but also, sent ripples throughout many generations. So
big 100%. So how do we reconcile principle? You asked me because your question to me was about principle, right? And then there's the relative. So I would offer that we want to have principle inform the relative rather than the relative informing principle. Mm-hmm. You catch me on that? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Color of skin and all that. Like if we're actually practicing principle, I don't see you any different than me. I want to get to policy though. I want to get to this whole policy thing because we're actually informed by something and it infects and affects our consciousness. We have some comments. Let's see what's going on here. Have we stirred the hornet's nest? Let's go.
No, it's great. It's great.
Well, no, I want to though. Let's
go. Can we take it slow? Maybe keep this chapter going for a few weeks. There's so much here.
Totally.
Team human.
Team human, no gender or racial inequality. Well, there is gender and racial inequality. We're working on it. Popular legend says what? Let's see. The idea of equality was based on a concept of civilization, which is a learned thing, we are all assimilated in some fashion. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And that,
I got.
go ahead.
Go. No.
Go
No.
ahead.
Go ahead. I want to say that is we're all assimilated in some fashion. I think that at the end of this chapter, he really makes the encouraged verbiage to allow us to recognize that, but also move forward into an anti-racist type of ideation in terms of policies and ways that we show up.
Let me ask you this. Well, it's on my mind, my brother. What do you think of the idea of, I mean, and obviously the authors put tremendous amount of thought into the book. To write a book, you have to. What do you think about the idea of anti-racist? I mean, is that the thing? What do you think about the idea of how to be an anti-racist? Like not non-racist, but anti-racist. What do you think?
Well, I really enjoyed the way he defined it in that first chapter with regards to anti-racists are, I think embracing ideas and policies that promote racial equity. And I felt that can be measured. We can look at that in terms of the behaviors that we show up with. It's growing on me. It's a new topic. It's a new word or words, I would say. It's one word, so word. But I think it's good because we're either there's no neutrality there. So you're either going one way or another way with it. And you kind of, I know for myself, I can bounce back and forth from anti-racist thoughts, ideas, supporting policies that maybe aren't actually creating the equity that I believe that all are deserving of. And it really allows me to like kind of take a step back and capture that and see how it applies to me. So yeah.
Dig it. We got another comment here. Let's see. It's
Russ and D. Did you tune into the conversation yesterday that he had, the author?
What's that, Russ and D? Are you asking them?
No, I'm asking. Well, Russ and D were they shared that.
We're enjoying your weekly interactions on the subject of discrimination and inequality. The YouTube interview yesterday with Dr. Ibram Kendi was very good. Where was that? Jeffon, were you in on that?
I was. So thank you to Russ and D for your willingness to share that. I signed up and was able to tune in and listen. And it was just a conversation around a variety of topics. About an hour long. People could search on it, search on YouTube and find it there.
Were you part of the panel or what
no?
Was that?
Just tuning in, listening.
Okay. Yep. Talkative Chatter says the nightmare of less than has outpictured into structural racism. Yep, I agree with that. Talkative Chatter. So we walk a line between all being equal in principle and being unequal in the outpictured reality, lowercase r reality. But that's where we have to talk about principle. That's where we have to keep coming back to principle. Principle. We have to keep coming back to it. We have to go to the causative realm and not the reactive realm. We have to keep coming back to the causative realm and not the place where we're reacting to something, because we get to create. Hey, look, gang, we create this world. It's not just we're here and then we're experiencing something. We're creating it as a human consciousness. What do you say, brother?
Right. Yeah, that's a really great point to think of, that cause and effect. It's like if we're seeing the effects out here in terms of inequality, in terms of inequity, in terms of people being put in difficult situations, in terms of systemic poverty and race issues, we trace it back to the cause, which as creators, we are actually fueling the effects, whether consciously or subconsciously. And as we begin to continuously come back to principle and recognize the power that we have in creating that effect, that's the degree to which the effect will change.
Yes, that's it.
That's a really.
We are literally sources of creation, literally sources of creation, that we're created from something, but now we can radiate something. We can be about something. Do you want to share some more of your slides?
Yeah. Let's see. I got about 40 to go. No, I'm just joking. All right. This is something on page 27, and then on page 28 is racist ideas impact all of us. And that should be impact, not impacts, or maybe impacts. Racist ideas impact all of us. And remember, those racist ideas that he's talking about there are ideas that put one person at a superior level and another person at an inferior level.
Yes.
He had a conversation around his parents being assimilated into the middle class of Black America, or just middle class here in America. And they started having this idea that, laziness is what has kept Black people down, or
right.
If they would just, get out of the streets, if they would get out of these neighborhoods and all of these type of things. And that's something that I've dealt with. And then the second thing, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, is Americans have long been trained to see the deficiencies of people rather than policy.
Yep.
And that is on page 28. That is a really powerful thought.
It's an incredibly powerful thought. Well, let's hear your thoughts first, since you brought it up. I mean, I've got plenty on it. But I want to. So what did it say? We've been trained to see people's behaviors rather than policy.
Deficiencies in people.
And how Jeff's saying, look for the pony. He's such a stinker. We do that though, right? We judge people. How does policy create us? How does policy inform how we think?
I know that it's just easier for me to look out at what somebody is or isn't doing and point a finger and say, well, you should do this. Well, you want to be successful, then you need to do this. Oh, you want to be good in school, this is what you need to do. Yeah. Completely ignorant at times of the policies that are taking place in that area, or the systemic issues that affect that young child. I'm thinking, for instance, and I shared this with Dr. Joe, I believe, in San Bernardino. I was just one day just jumped on and started looking at teachers' stories in San Bernardino. And they are saying, one of the things that we're trying to do is instill hope in the kids. But they walk out of the school and they see homeless people, prostitutes right there. They see crack being sold right in front of the schools. They see shootings continuously. So for me to go and say to these young kids, or high school students, look, all you got to do is this. And that this is my assimilationist ideas. All you got to do is this. You're in an inferior position. Just do this. You can get here, get here, get here. But there is a larger context of policy that has continuously downtrodden or suppress that potential, that greatness, that light, that glory within that individual by way of what's happening maybe to their uncle or cousin or dad that's in prison or not around, their mother or auntie or grandmother who may be on drugs. There's a large sense of policy that has continuously made people feel inferior. And so for me to go and shake somebody and say, try to wake up, I'm pointing to the deficiency that I believe to be in the person rather than the policies that may have caused those deficiencies to exist. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe I'm talking in circles.
No. But if a person feels dignified, are they more or less likely to use drugs? If someone's in touch with their dignity, their humanity, and their pride and their esteem, are they more or less likely to use drugs?
Yeah, they're less likely.
Way less, right?
They're way less.
Mm-hmm. And that's a policy issue. The next line in that quote that you just said is, people are in our faces, policies are distant.
Yep.
People are right here. Policies are more abstract. They're away. But if we have policies that actually accentuate and celebrate the dignity of being a human being, we're way less likely to use drugs, alcohol, whatever it might be, because we have esteem, we feel good. There's actually the dopamine, the all the stuff that's released through feeling good about our own lives is more there. that we
And
don't look. Go ahead. Yep.
and we're tracing this back to that quote that I shared a little bit earlier, which was from Nixon's, domestic policy chief, the war
Yep.
on drugs, where we could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. So when we're talking about policies, and I'm kind of trying to bring this context,
Yep.
those are the policies. They are still in place, maybe to varying degrees, but those are the things that really we could start, I don't know, bringing our anti-racist ideas towards.
I love it. Okay, we're going to keep going here. We've got a comment. Look for the pony. Environmental pressure will influence a person's behavior. How can we change the environment to positively influence the future beginning now? By doing this, what we're doing. We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it, Jeffon.
Yeah, and so I had an opportunity to see some friends this weekend, and I was just looking around at varying things, and I was really starting to think, like, what is causing people to completely ignore what I believe to be are issues or experiences that are right in front of everybody's faces. For instance, why is it that so many people sitting in positions of power, whether in the corporate world or in the government, are not actually willing to engage in conversations that move the needle or create a new paradigm? There are people who are like, when we're having these experiences and these conversations where we're opening and broadening that idea, but there are people who are holding on to the current state of reality extremely tight.
Yep.
And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I just look out, and I think I mentioned to you, like, living or sleeping with their eyes wide open, and,
Yep.
and I know I fall victim of that as well.
Say it, man. Say it. Someone's asking you specifically. Let me see. Let me get back there. Jeffon, did you not live this environmental experiment as you were growing up?
Yeah, I mean, the environmental experiment. My dad, African American. When I was about 5, I didn't see him. I saw him maybe 3 or 4 times.
Should we ask for more clarity on what environmental experiment means too?
Yeah, I think that environmental pressure that influences a person's behavior.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, as with drugs, I mean, my mom was on coke, crack. I mean, would see that growing up. She was on that for 20 years almost, and I saw all of that, and there was something within me that I didn't want. I knew what that opened up, but I had other friends in this area who had everything, and they fell victim. But being biracial or multiracial in a particular community, it was this very interesting idea, and I guess I found a unique way to begin my assimilation process into it. And then I saw the way that I could get out of it was to do what I saw my white friends, successful parents, doing. And that was my idea, that if I could kind of maneuver in this world, then I could get out of this particular cyclical type thing that at least my parents were in. My grandparents who raised me, who are white too, they were, middle class America. And then my father's side, my grandparents, they were lower to middle class African American family. But I saw the people who I really aspired to be were, my rich white friends, and that was, I asked myself, what would I have to do? And that kind of helped me shift my mindset, my direction.
Yeah. Right on. Amen.
Still does.
Still does.
Still does.
So your white brothers and sisters are still the ones that inspire you to achieve something?
not necessarily fully inspired, but when I think about success in my mind, it's being I see in my mind, I see a white person.
Yeah.
To what I think to make it in America, unless I'm a athlete or maybe an entertainer, a musician, I don't see any. I've seen a few. One of my mentors reached that level of success, who's African American man, but it's 98% white.
Mm.
And that's the American dream in my mind is a white life.
Well,
Is a rich white life.
that's why we're having these comments. See, it just makes me, it's right in my heart when you say that. I feel like we're getting like down to brass tacks right now, like we're finally getting, like it gets right into my heart when you say that, I think we talked last week about that when my daughter plays with her Barbies, we want to make sure that she's got white Barbies and black Barbies and, all sorts of different Barbies. So that there's so many examples of what's possible.
Yeah.
You know?
He says, is it possible to be Negro and American at the
Yep.
same time?
Yep.
And that's, and I don't know. I would say, of course it is, but is it possible to be successful in America and be it's a deep thing. This is something I want to share here. It's
Please.
being Black and American, dual consciousness. So that's what I'm saying, bouncing around this idea. The Black body is instructed to become an American body. The American body is the white body. The Black body strives to assimilate into the American body. The American body rejects the Black body. The Black body is instructed to assimilate into the American body, and
Yep.
history and consciousness duel anew. And that's page 33. And I don't know, like.
Yep.
When you think of success in America, and you pinpoint what that person looks like, who is extremely successful, whether monetarily or whatever, what is the idea that comes to your mind?
Yep. No, same. I have the exact same things. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, and you're, and if I think about a Black person, it's an entertainer or a comedian or something. You're right. Like totally. I get it. 100%. I cannot think right now, and I haven't investigated, of President Obama. 100%. Yep. Thank you. Colin Powell. Thank you. Keep it coming. I can't think of a Black CEO or a founder of a company right now. I forgive me. I can't think of one.
Yeah. And
we're talking about, just making your way through without being. I get it. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, and even President and Colin Powell, yes, they were representative, but were they? And I often say that it's not as if the Congress was inclusive.
Yeah.
They were able to assimilate into that particular environment. And were they their authentic selves? I don't know. But it's not as if this was an inclusive body of Congress that was made up of what America really looks like. So they were then even in those positions at the highest level of our government, they were forced to play at the rules that were created by people who preceded him. So, anyways.
No. I mean, I'm just thinking. I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure what to say right now. I guess what I want to go to is the final paragraph of the chapter. How are we doing on time? What time is it?
We have about 15 minutes.
3/4 past the hour. He says, and I also want to say this though, there are plenty of Black folks that are heroes.
Of course.
Well, we have to study and investigate. We have to, but that's part of it though, is we have to find them. It's not as easy to find them, but there's so many that are.
You know,
what was the quote about progress? Progress is a slow something. I'm not sure. But go ahead.
I was gonna say, and depends on how we capture success. You know, do we say that success is monetary? Somebody said Oprah Winfrey.
Yep.
So is success monetary, or success the development of people skills? Because if it's people-oriented skills, then we see people like Martin Luther King, we see people like W.B. Du Bois, we see people like even Malcolm X. Oprah Winfrey is somebody who has attained that level. And then I'm always looking then now with this book, with this idea of anti-racism, does the resources that an individual has accumulated, do they push that into policies that create equitable opportunity, or have they been able to find a way to capitalize on the system that they've been playing in and continue to hoard resources or just accumulate resources?
Is that part of assimilation then, rather than equal opportunity?
Yeah, you know, I don't know the answer to that. And I don't know if it's like, oh, so when you make a certain level, then you just solely focus on, you know, I don't know. I just think that that idea of anti-racist policy and anti-racist ideas and having these deep conversations that maybe might hurt your bottom line if you stand up and say, look, like we have to talk about the lack of VC funding for Black companies. We have to, or any, a variety of race, even women oriented companies.
Yep.
And Damon John, I think Jeff mentioned, he's another individual who's attained a lot of success by way of selling apparel to the Black community.
Yep.
So it's a deep thing.
You know what I'm feeling particularly vulnerable today for some reason. Just I think I've already been up for, I don't know. Jeff got me up like 6 hours ago because we filmed earlier. So maybe I'm delirious a little bit. I guess I'm in my heart. I just more in my heart, more vulnerable right now. We have to be willing to have the conversations and not know the answers, right? I keep coming back to the idea that even if we show up and say a dumb thing, at least we're showing up.
Right.
And saying a dumb thing. And then we're willing to be schooled, go to school, learn, get a new piece of information, find out something. Just keep your heart open. I want to read this last paragraph. Do you have more you want to share? We're getting close to the top of the hour. Do you want to share some more, my brother, before we do?
Yeah, and I'll make
sharing.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch on a few things.
Yeah, go for it.
And then we can kind of we can circle back. We don't have to continue through all of it, but
do it.
So W.B. Du Bois kind of fueled this concept of dual consciousness, you know, a war is being waged within his own dark body, wanting to be a Negro and wanting to escape into the mass of Americans in the same way that the Irish and Scandinavians were doing. That's on page 29, which was really great. And then he was talking about, you know, the dueling consciousness in Black folks is Black self-reliance and assimilation, which we touched upon. That's on page 30. And then with white people, segregationist and the assimilationist. And I'm interested to hear if you have any thoughts around that. And he's not blanketing this across everybody, but what are your thoughts about that, Rev Charles?
The distinction between an assimilationist and a segregationist?
Yeah, and do you think that that's something that so if the dueling consciousness in Black people is Black self-reliance and assimilation, and then he said white people between segregationists and the assimilationists, obviously we know that the higher, better path that we could take is the anti-racist ideas.
Right.
Do you think that that is something that white folks experience between segregationists an assimilationist? Is that a natural default?
Well, I know that it's easy as a human being to assimilate.
Yeah.
I think I think to segregate is a different level of thought, or what you've been exposed to. What was the question? Do I think it's a default for white people? For white people to,
and I'll share this for some context. So
everybody assimilates somehow.
Some way.
To segregate some way. To segregate, though, is more unjust. I think it takes more energy to segregate than it does to assimilate. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And he was
be anti something to segregate. I think it's easy. Assimilation is like being a cow in the herd.
Yeah. Because he's saying, assimilation, developing, civilizing, and integrating a racial group. Segregating is incarcerating, enslaving, deporting, killing, and anti-racist is reducing racial inequities and creating equitable opportunities.
Right.
So how do we approach anti-racist ideas?
Will you bring that back up real quick?
Yes.
Assimilating, okay, developing, civilizing, and integrating a racial group. But I'm thinking, you know what, I'm thinking about this in terms of thought, which is the same thing. Developing, civilizing, and making normal a particular way of thinking about life, integrating it into yourself. And to integrate, which is integrity, means to make whole. So that's to assimilate something. Segregating says you are other. You're not part of me. You're different, and I'm going to treat you different because you are different. So yeah, there's a big distinction there. I could assimilate Black people into my life and to make it whole, to make it a real thing. Does that make sense? Do you understand that?
I see what you're saying.
You do? I could assimilate another race into my experience. If I let's say I moved to Ghana, I could assimilate. I just don't want to look at it so much in the negative way, I guess. I just don't want to, in a way that's othering. I could move to Ghana, where I've spent time, and become part of that culture and assimilate myself into that culture. But how do I still maintain my individualized thought, my uniqueness, to still maintain my unique contribution? So, but segregating would be if I moved to Ghana and said, why the F are there so many Black people around me? I can't stand them. What do you think?
Yeah, I think in this particular, at least in that those definitions that you shared at the beginning, and then we'll get to some comments. What I felt he was trying to say is assimilating is trying to civilize or integrate somebody who we see as inferior so they can live at the level that we say is the way everybody should be living.
Understood.
And then with the segregation is that idea. But getting to this point that somebody said, I reacted to the chapter.
Coming in. Are we stirring the hornet's nest this morning? I love it.
Possibly. So if you are not anti-racist and you're participating in a racial system passively, would agree with that. I reacted to the chapter challenge, resistant, alarmed, skeptical, confused, and 2/3 into the chapter, aha. Wondering where I'll be at the next chapter, feel enlightened now. Let's talk more about the view and approach of the anti-racist. The dignity of a human being cannot be legislated. Laws can attempt to be fair, but dignity, I believe, starts in the family.
Amen with that.
Jeffon asks, what is causing people to ignore the issues that are right in front of us? Well, COVID. It has become the single force
co-opting
our mind. Yeah, and as Dr. Kendi said yesterday, it has disproportionately impacted the Black community in a major way, often because they are the frontline workers. They cannot take off. I'm very interested to see what happens with schools being canceled. How are
black and brown, and brown. Yep.
And how are single families going to navigate homeschooling while having to work to pay for? Yeah. So there's a disproportionate impact on
to pay to be
brown bodies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else do we have?
Talking about the Black body, American body, look at the example of U.S. servicemen. The armed forces are American and the playing field is fairly equal. But when servicemen come out of service, they are smack up against the Black or American question. And that's exactly what Muhammad Ali said. Why would I go to the other side of the world and kill other brown people when I come back here and they disrespect me and are killing people that look like me?
That's exactly what he said. Yep.
Progress of the best kind is comparatively slow. Jeffon slides added a lot. We will continue. I'll do my best to continue with the slides.
Yeah, that was good, brother. I like that.
It's a, and we're all maneuvering through this together. And the ideas and insights that I share are things from my perspective. By no means is it absolute truth. It's just the ideas that are stirring at my heart and spirit. I would dare to say it's the same with you, Rev Charles, and for everybody who is chiming in. We're all here together and we're walking collectively towards a brighter reality. And I want to circle back to your point of recognizing that we are the cause of the effects that we see. And if we intentionally enter into that causation gestation period, we can then begin to manifest something totally different if we are willing to be vulnerable, to walk into the unknown, to challenge ourselves, and to recognize that there are blind spots, even if we are talking about the divine mind.
Always. That's the thing. Nobody has anything figured out. I love that. No one has anything figured out. And we have to reconcile that. When we're talking about these discussions or principle or whatever it is, I love what you just said, man. I love it. It's no one's got anything. We're all doing maybe not all doing our best. Lots of us are doing our best. Some people are not. Some people are stinkers out there. Quit being a stinker.
I got a suggestion, as a few people said, if we could continue discussing chapter 2 next week.
It's so deep. It's so rich. Yeah, go ahead.
This is a thought. Can we, because I've been holding myself back to keep reading forward. Can we open to chapter 3? But I would like everybody, this is a suggestion. If you have questions or insights or ideas that you would like to share or would like us to discuss in chapter 2, could you email the center so we could have maybe a list? I would even create slides of the questions that people have or insights they want to discuss. And then we can open to chapter 3. Those of you who are following in the book, it's How to Be an Anti-Racist. And we can explore into chapter 3 if time permits. But we can definitely, and I'm okay with circling and kind of diving a little bit deeper into the second chapter and see where we get, and then open to chapter 3 if that's something that is in our.
Wait till you get to chapter 3. That's all. You're going to want to discuss that over and over again too. I mean, the book is just, but I love that. info@cslpalmdesert.org. And I see that info@cslpalmdesert.org. Let's keep it going. Added the email. Okay, great. Info@cslpalmdesert.org. You know, I listen to the ads on the radio when I'm listening to music. They say it 14 times and it always bugs me, but I get it in my ear. Info@cslpalmdesert.org. Okay, I want to read this now. We're already past time almost. He says, Jeffon, you're the man, by the way. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I really enjoy this.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you know what I appreciate about this, actually, before I read this, is that we can have a conversation and there's no shame. There's no concern about shame. there's just a conversation to make us wake up a little bit. And I love that.
Yeah. Thank you, brother.
I love you. I appreciate you. Okay. He says, so end of page 33, top of page 34. But there is a way to get free. To be anti-racist is to emancipate oneself from the dueling consciousness. Hey folks, how often do we talk about that too? Dueling consciousness. What are you for? Not what you're against, not what you don't want to see, but what are you for? To be anti-racist is to conquer the assimilationist consciousness and the segregationist consciousness. The white body no longer presents itself as the American body. The black body no longer strives to be the American body. Knowing there is no such thing as the American body, only American bodies, racialized by power.
Yeah, that's a powerful way to end.
Isn't that rich, man?
That's incredible.
Isn't that what a powerful paragraph? Only American bodies, racialized by power, not power by racial distinguishedness, just distinguishing, but racialized by power. We have the power. I appreciate you, brother. I'm so grateful for another morning. I hope we stirred the hornet's nest. I really do.
And I appreciate everybody chiming in and your willingness to go through this conversation, and Jeff in the back helping to make all this possible. Everybody. I mean, this is great.
It is great. Jeff in the Swing Point Media producers booth. I appreciate him. I appreciate you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. As I you.
Let's see. Did we miss any comments? I want to make sure we didn't miss any comments before we get off here. Do you see any? I'm on my phone, so let's stay with chapter 2. Somebody said, well, we're going to keep going, though. I mean, there's a lot more book here, folks, so we're going to keep going. Pure conversation is enlightening. Namaste. Right on. I think we can reference back to chapter 2. Do you think, bro? And then kind of just keep. We're going to go to chapter 3 next week, though, gang. Okay, we're going to keep
progression.
There's a lot of book, right?
There's a lot of book. There's a lot of book.
All right, couple of announcements. Hang tight real quick because I want to give you a big love on the sign off. Okay. Tomorrow, what day is today? It's Tuesday. Tomorrow's a Sensational 6. They're going to bring you what they bring you. They always do it good. Thursday, I am with Dr. Will Coleman. Make sure you are here Thursday morning. Dr. Will Coleman is a genius. He's
incredible,
isn't he? I mean, he's the man. I tell everybody, seriously, even if you don't know what you're in for and you're like skeptical, just be here Thursday morning for Dr. Will. It's going to be, we might have to make Dr. Will a regular thing too. It's going to be a lot. Friday, Life on Love with me. I'm going to keep telling you silly, stupid stories about my life so you can get to know me. Blah, blah, blah. I hope it's fun for you, but I want to make it entertaining. It's going to be good. Maybe I'll get horse and pony show in here for you, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Saturday, meditation. Sunday, another wonderful service. Tune in Sunday. Make sure you do, because we filmed at the center this morning, and it was really, really wonderful. The footage that we got. We got another comment here, Jeffon. What does it say?
What's the hurry? Let's get the concepts down.
What are the concepts?
No. What's the hurry in moving through the book? Let's get the concepts down.
Well, I don't know. There's no hurry. Except, I don't know. We're just reading one chapter at a time, I guess. Is chapter 3, what if chapter 3 is even deeper than chapter 2, though? What do you think about that?
Yeah, the way it's been going, it's like we're stacking on top of incredible chapters. Well, let's go through let's at least read chapter 3. Everybody can chime in questions, comments, things about chapter 2. We could begin next week with a conversation around those things, see where we get, And then the idea would be to at least cross that threshold into the chapter 3, and perhaps we'll have to circle back to chapter 3 in 2 weeks as well. Who knows?
Exactly. I'm glad we're reading a book that's so full and rich.
Yeah.
Isn't that wonderful?
It's great.
That's Jeffon Seeley, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you, my brother, so much.
Thank you, brother. Much love to you, to everybody out there. Love you guys.
Have a great week. Make it the best day ever. God bless you.
Blessings.